So let's create the geometry for all these window openings. I have the 3D cursor positioned. Point snapping, move command is on. Add new mesh plane. Then I can move, hold control and snap. Hold, snap. Going to edit mode, edge select, bring this over, hold control. You see I'm just moving and dragging E and Z. So extrude and Z constraint, hold control, click, there we are. And then in object mode, I simply Shift D and X, position them. Then Shift D and X, go to here, go into edit mode, select these two edges, hold control, snap, tab, leave edit mode, go into object mode, and then Shift D and X and bring this over to there, make a copy. Okay, we made copies on purpose because all these pieces will have individual materials. And it's a little bit different than here, for example. So I will do this. Shift D, hold control, okay, to this bottom part, go into edit mode, move this down, hold control, snap, bring this over, hold control, snap. Okay, good. And then I will say right click, set origin geometry. Because window cut there. So this is the value I use for the array modifier. So I can copy this, Control C, H, hide this one, select this array modifier, Control V, simply paste this in, 4 pieces. Zuck, there, works. And I think these all have the same pieces. They do, so I can simply hide those. And then this one, Alt D, because this is the same. Hold Control, or move it to here and hold Control. Sometimes the snapping works good, sometimes it does not. There. It's based on what it wants to snap. Alt D, G, hold Control, G, hold Control. They have to go down a little bit. So this cannot be just an Alt D copy. This needs to be an individual copy. So here, click. Okay, not a big problem. Select this edge and move it down. Tab so we can get out of the edit mode. So now Alt D, hold control. Let's see where it snaps. G, hold control. Okay, it snaps to there. You see now the array modifier is not correct. What's this one here? It has this value. So Control C to copy. Select this one. Control V, paste it in. One more. So 3. There we are. And yeah, this was a little bit different. So I copied this one, and window cuts I can hide. Alt D, G and Z, G and Control, and then Control V, we paste this in, 2 more there. Okay, no? Very good. And then to do these is exactly the same way how we did those here. So Shift D, then with G and holding Control, I can snap these pieces into position, move this down, move this over, there we are. Right click geometry. By the way, I can select multiple objects, right click and then say reset the center point. No, Shift D and hold Control. Shift D, hold Control, Shift D. You see how I'm very quickly rebuilding that environment. It's quite easy and fast. Shift D, Control, zack. Okay, one more. Shift D, Control there. Edit mode, bring this one up. right click there, Shifty, I know, hold on, I'll show you something. Shifty there. So you see they're not at the right height. What's really nice in Blender is you can select multiple objects, and then when you go into edit mode, you can select multiple geometries at the same time. So you don't have to go into edit mode, leave edit mode. Would be great in case actually SketchUp could do this more. Shift D, go to there, Shift D, go to there, edit mode for both, suck, and there I'm with Control Snap, finish this. Yeah, no, there we have this super easy. We are ignoring building the what's going on here? This is it was embarrassing. It's always good to rotate your view a little bit. So something like this does actually not happen. As I noticed, the snapping here happened. Why did this happen? Oh, because I assumed this edge here is the same as there, but it was not. But you see how fast we can readjust this, and I think here this is too far in, and then click, Shift B, middle mouse button, right click, reset. So we ignored building the window frame. Now we could do this. We learned how to do this here with there, but we will skip this step. So here, how do we do this? The 3D cursor, we can drag onto here, Shift A, plane. Then we will go into edit mode, R, Y, and 90. G, and you see how I'm snapping this down. There we are. Tab. In object mode, right click, and then Shift D, and then, whoop, wrong tool. Shift D there, tab, suck. Shift D, hold Control, tab, suck. Shift D, and then you Shift D, and then click, right click, origin. Okay, now there's our geometry. And then, yeah, how do we do the glass? Okay, let's do the simple glass first. So this one here. Here we go new, and then we type in, we could say window glass clear. Okay. That has it not. So here we go to there, type in window, and we apply this. And because these are clones, you can see they all have the same color. So the material, let's go to here, Z and render. And we see, well, there's something, but it's solid. We want this to be transparent. The easiest way to turn this material into glass is we click here, and instead of being this principled BSDF, which is called kind of like an Uber material, it can be changed into metal, stone, whatever. We would like this just to be glass. There we are. Then color transparency. White is clear. This is actually rough. So you see this is kind of blurry. Let's change this to 0, and then it's clear. Now, one note about glass material. Glass can be very render intensive. We can also, for example, say this should just be transparent. But you see now, yeah, this is transparent, but it has no reflection on it too. If you Google how to make architecture glass, there's a lot one can find. Since we will render also online, we will simply go this way with the glass material. We have this index of reflection that's going to bend the light. Maybe Google, when you take a stick and put it underwater, under the water, the submerged part of the stick will look at a different angle. Now, this is kind of like this index of refraction. Okay, so this is actually good. How can we do this now? So maybe here, new, and we call this window, and I will copy this. I mean, copy the name, glass, maybe red. Same thing, glass, red, there. Select this one, new. You see how this is really, again, mass production. Very repetitive tasks. And glass, there, what do we say, blue? Maybe a nice yellow. Yellow, there we are. And glass, yellow, suck. Or what do we do this? Maybe this one we make magenta or violet. We didn't have yet either. Oop, 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 oop. There we are. There's this, there's that. Z and render. Yeah, look at that. Huh? So if we now go into the space and look up, there you see this. It's pretty cool, no? Yeah. You might notice that actually at this point the rendering engine can actually also get slower because of there's not much light really coming in. That is why the rendering then with the online render farm will be really very beneficial. So how do we finish the rest? First, I will here, these are all the glass elements. Yep. Very good. And I press M, new collection, and I will call this window glass. Very nice. So I can turn this on and off. I go now into the space and do a rendering. You see, ooh, this is really fast. And with all the other stuff on, it's not as fast as you can see. Okay, good. Then to adjust all the colors, we can take a look at the architectural reference image. We have here this elevation view. And then based on this, what we see there, we could colorize the individual pieces as they should be. And as you can see here now, I have the building turned off. I see my other window elements, Z and material preview. I have this background image here. So there now I can figure out, okay, where's the correct window. So this one here should be green, and then actually this one should be blue. Very nice. Okay, and now I can go ahead and say, so you should be magenta. That's this one, Control L. And you, oh, this is a new one. That's a nice deep blue. So actually, let's make this one not blue. This is cyan. And then this one here we make blue. Maybe, yeah, like a deep one. There we are. Very good. And then you shift click this one, Control L. You Control L. That's the green one. This one is the yellow one. Oh, here we have an orange. Suck and suck. Orange for me the most hardest color really to work with in my opinion. Oh, what happened? Glass. There we are. Oh, yeah. It's there. Yep. That's changed now. And then here we can also type in red. Look, you see how quickly that's following magenta, it sorts everything out. Blue and cyan there. So I just typed in green, and yeah, yellow, orange, and red. There. See, no, not too long. Pretty cool. Okay, so if we then do rendering, okay, there we are. I also have all these other windows here that have the transparency added to it. Building, let's go into rendering, Z and render. Yeah, look at that. Now it's gets a complete different look already. So we take this out, and we have all this coming in, and we take this, it gets nice and colored, for example. So Z and solid. Okay, very good. Cool. And then I can show you how we can do these pieces here. And we also have these very big openings here in the back, the glass window, the glass door, and pretty much here we can do the same. I will select all these elements here I have, and maybe it's easier to just turn the building off. Okay, so AA, so nothing is selected, and I just redo the step just to make sure that I have everything selected that I want. There, 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 there. Okay, very nice. And then I recall here, this is the material that's just clear glass. Control L. Now this is for making a link for the material. Z and render. Okay, pretty good. Very nice. So now these are colorized too. I am inside the space, turned on the rendering preview, and you might notice that this is actually taking a little bit longer now. That is quite normal. That's also the downside of glass. The light is not necessarily passing through or bouncing off. The glass material enables the software to calculate how the glass should bend. It's more time consuming. Also, the color saturation is actually really, really intense. So there are a few tricks we have at our disposal we could do. First, when I select a color or a window here, click on the color, I have the ability to play with the saturation slider. So make this, for example, less intense. When I select all those pieces here and lower the saturation, let's go back, Z and render. And there you see, it is coloring this a little bit, but not as intense. So it is a matter of preference, what type of color you would like to do. Is it too much? Do we have to lower it? Yeah. So the other option is I will actually, for example, switch these saturations back. I go on purpose with the full RGB value. The other option we have now is, do we keep this a glass material or do we turn this into a fake transparent material? So where's the big difference? Let me go to this angle, Z, and then I do a render. And now we can see here on the glass surface, now we can see through, but you also can see that, hey, there's this reflection of the architecture on the glass. And that is basically what the glass material does. It simulates actual glass. And if you grab a transparent glass or take a look at a window perpendicular and really nearly from the side, you will see that when we are perpendicular, we can see through. And if we are really at a grazing angle like this, we see a reflection. So that needs to be calculated. That needs time to do. This is also the more realistic way how to do the glass. As a shortcut, we could, instead of glass, say, well, this is just a transparent material. So I do the same here now. Transparent, not translucent. Translucent would turn this into something like silicone. Fortunately, because we are reusing the materials for various objects, only have to do this one time to one material, and then all the other materials are updated too. There. No, so all these are done. So then we now go into the space. It will render a little bit faster, but it won't necessarily bend the light as, for example, the glass material would do. Plus, we're not really going to see this this reflection on it. Now here we might not really care much. We don't really see much of the window, but so let's say we go maybe to maybe here. Let's see. So how would this look? So there's actually now the glass window, and if we render this, we don't really see any reflection on it. If I set this back to just glass, there you can see the environment right on the glass window. So that's a nice realism. Obviously, without the reflection, it looks like there's nothing there. So the reason why I show you this is simply so you have two options. One is kind of fake, that can colorize and give you the idea of that there is a window, and one is more realistic, but takes a tick longer also to calculate. Very good. Yeah, I mean this actually looks pretty nice now when we are inside the space. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can create and add more materials to the individual walls. I will isolate these three walls here. Let's use this one too. Shift H. There we are. Okay, cool. Okay, let's start with this one. We go to here, new material. Let's call this building white. Okay, all good. This should be not a glossy material, let's say a nice and matte. So we set specular to 0. If this actually should be a really matte, permanently matte, by the way, we can also then simply say, where is it? D like diffuse, there, diffuse. That's pure flat, no reflection. Okay. Then let's go into edit mode. My unit system is currently set to imperial. So let's say 3 feet off the ground, I would like to have a loop cut. So Control R, click. So what are 3 feet? 12, 24, 36. So you see how I'm sliding this up and down till it tells me here that this is roughly 36. Little other trick, Alt click on this edge, GG, move this down, GZ, and then 36 inches. There. By the way, while I'm in imperial, I can also type in 1 meter. Adjust it as I want. Very good. Switch to here. So this is the material preview. Then I can select, whoa, careful, these materials. Let's go view frame selected, so the rotation is better. And now this I would like to give maybe an orange material. There, plus, new, we call this building orange. This is also then when it's really useful to go to your local paint store, take a look at their paint swatches, the offerings, maybe take a look at how does a eggshell, how does a high gloss, how does a matte, how does a semi-gloss look, how reflective are they, how blurry they are, because these illusions we then can recreate. So here we will make this a little bit orange. Specular is good. A little bit of roughness, so it's not so super glossy. 0.3. Yeah, nothing happened because we have to hit assign first. There we are. Cool. So let's go to here. Let's do the same. Let's assume the Control R for loop cut doesn't work. In edit mode, I can press K for knife. Then this is the x-axis, and then cut through, C, click enter. There's my loop cut. Also here, alt click on this edge, GG, GZ, what was it? 1 meter, not 1 inch, 1 meter. There. Click, 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 click. Oh, this whole thing first needs the material. So building white, good. Now plus the orange, and now assign. The first material you add to geometry makes the material be applied to the whole geometry. There, cool. Go to here, edit mode, Control R, down, move this up 1 meter, building, alt click on this edge, makes the loop. Suck. They're not the same. Well, that could easily be the same, to be honest. Alt D and X, snap, H, click this one, X and delete, Alt H, and a 0 there. Cool, now. So now if we do a rendering, there you can see now how we have this material nicely always at this 1 inch line. So how do we do the same maybe with the wall? So here we make this white. And this is actually now the moment where we might have to also apply the cut for all these windows openings. This is more like a demo. You don't have to necessarily do it. If you want to, you can. This can also be quite interesting. Then how can you paint the color go around corners? So why do we have to apply the Boolean cut? Because as you know, this is still our basic geometry, just this empty shell, which we give a thickness, and then we do these cuts. So here's my collection, and I call this maybe building raw, Shift D and escape. This building raw now a height, and here I will apply the solidify, this. Ooh, not the cut sections. Yeah, this I will show later. This is then how we use the Boolean commands to do cut sections. Okay, so now because I applied all the other or all the modifiers you had in your list minus these two, if I go into edit mode, look at that. Now I have actual geometry I can touch, no? So I think this makes it very, very clear. So I would like from here to have one line go through. So how do we do this? Ideally, this is with the Control R, and that's not going to really work. That's the reason why we, at this point, then will use the knife tool. So I will press K, click, this is X, yep, and C to cut through, click and press enter. So now you can see how we sliced through the whole space. Kind of like this line, no? Okay. So I could then in this mode, so wireframe, AA, B, select all the faces at the bottom, and for example, I give those now this orange material. There we are. So how can we now make the material go through the inside here? and maybe stop at this wall. And then we have a little bit also in here. So there is my piece now. So I have this face selected. I can press K, click here, and then X till there, click enter, and that's it. So you see this face I sliced. But as we can see also here, these cuts went through there too. Let's see. Yeah, it did it. Now and then you see how they're coming up there. So how can we maybe prevent this? I simply press Shift H. I hide everything else. Go to this view, press K, click X, click and enter. Alt H. So you saw by hiding the other geometry, it didn't really cut it. I find this to be honestly the fastest and easiest way to do this. There, I apply this material. Yeah, there we are. If I go to 0, show the floor. Now there you can see this. Okay. So what's maybe here the distance? We can select this, hold, drag this, maybe this, hold control, snap on this line, hold control. There actually it finds the vertical distance, so it's 48. If we want this to be at 48, so 28.7 thousandths have to go down. So what I will do now is the following. See, I select all these lines. So careful now. So GZ, I will bring this one down till there. Okay. And now this should go up 1 meter too. GZ, and then 1 meter, or whatever inches you will select. Okay. So, but how do we do this now here on this wall? And then there. So again, I hide everything else, select this face, Shift H, hide the floor, go to this view, K. I simply slice really high on top. There we are, and enter. Thank you. Then I can show the floor, select all those, not you and not you. Not you. G and Z down, G and Z up, and 1 meter. Very good. Here now GZ and I hold control and snap to this height. Okay, and then actually I will do this. GZ, bring this down, GZ a little bit up, and 1 meter. Yeah, so how do we do this now from kind of like from here to there? So this I will bring down, hold snap, and let's say this is kind of like where it should stop. So let me show you a little trick how we will do this. Basic geometry. I just draw a line. This is like a guideline. Bring this one up, bring this one down, X and delete that edge. There we are. See? So Alt H, show me everything else. So, oh, interesting. So yeah, so you go down, hold. Oh, this is interesting. Let's see how, okay, GZ. I will, you see it goes to this point. B in wireframe, select these 2 points, and then we will merge them to 1 point. So then you go down, snap. So here, E and X, I draw a line over. So right where actually this step would be. From here, E and X there. And then here I draw an another line. You see, it's kind of like yeah, like a guideline. And then I simply bring the stuff down. And as long as this is not too crazy, the result will be pretty good. Yeah, there, assign. There we are. Look at that. Now we have that material going going down. Obviously, adding material just on solid faces is pretty easy. So let's say these faces here, we would like to have the material added to it. This face and this face here. There. Here, maybe you get this color, but then I don't want this to go up. I would like this rather to go be horizontal. So this has to snap to this point. And then maybe here, this is orange. 0, take a look. Yeah. Okay. The interesting element of this architecture is just how many interesting edges and walls we have. So the last thing maybe to demo is, so how do we make the material go along the window here now? So that's easy. So let's say here with the knife tool there, I select, then Y, this is the Y direction, click OK. Let's frame this and rotate the view. Okay, I did not slice anything else. So I select this face, K, Y, click and enter. And maybe here we do 1, 2, click Y and enter. And then I select kind of like these individual faces. I can select, give this a material. There we are. Yeah. And if I do not want these things, I select everything and overwrite, kind of like new paint. And then I have the old geometry left. So for example, if this might be too much, then we can go back and simply say, so U2 be just the normal white material again. Very good. Okay, so that's kind of like everything that's interesting to know about how then to add different materials to a window. Not a window, different parts of the architecture, even when they go along a line. And just again, just to reiterate, you have matte material, you also have glossy material or semi-glossy. So if this should be high glossy, then this is a normal BSDF, and we go specular, and the roughness makes sure if this is now really yeah, like plastic glossy, there you can see the reflections on it. Or if we set specular to 0, if it's matte. If it's really reflective, okay, but if we then increase the roughness, the reflectivity is there, but the image is more diffused. Or if it just always should be a pretty flat material, we can turn this into just this diffuse material, or go to the glossy and then say, hey, I really not glossy is actually, it's glossy is only like a plastic material. I meant the principled BSDF. There we are. Let's make all this super glossy to like a plastic building. There we are. Looks kind of crazy. 0.1, maybe a little bit. 0, let's see. Yeah. 0.01. Maybe a little bit of reflection and then some diffuse to it. 0.001. You see, it's still pretty strong actually. 0.001. Oh, even one more. There, it's getting really weak now. It's really interesting as a study. Move around in a house, look onto walls, look along walls, and pay attention to how much you start seeing highlights and how clean, how non-blurry or how blurry are the highlights. Okay, cool. There we are. So what do we do with the ground plane here? So this is an interesting area exercise. We would like to add some materials that go onto it. So the problem you will notice is all the images we can find are these nice and small textures, which then have to be stretched over this huge area. And this will have certain problems. This is also a lighting class. So in Cat 2, we will go much more in detail. So everything what we do today here is more meant as an introduction. Okay, good. So let's start actually with the grass. So there we have a nice grass. I typed in seamless grass texture. Seamless is really important. So these left and right, top and bottom edges are exactly the same. So this piece can be tiled. Now I downloaded the image and put this into a folder where textures here. So there it is. So I will copy this one and put it in here. And maybe call this grass. This type of organizing everything in folders is really important because then, well, this is just the folder that has all the stuff in it. If I move this folder later, there's my textures folder. This way you prevent Blender losing the ability to find certain textures. So let's get this material. First, make a material. I call this ground, just basic white. Then I will go into edit mode. This face, we would like to create this grass. So plus new grass. Let's make this kind of like green. Assign. Cool. There we are. So now we kind of like can see where maybe these materials could be. Can do the same here too. There, grass. Thank you. And not here because this might make it a little bit more complicated. Plus the grass doesn't go vertical. Well, we can keep it this way for the moment. Okay, good. So how do we make this look really like grass? Instead of using a color, we click this button here and then say image. Then we have now kind of like this dialog open and textures. There we are. Oh, I double clicked actually twice and there it is. So based on how your geometry is, you might see something on the right or see something on the left. No problem. What we have to do is it's called unwrapping. Think about a cardboard box. And you cut open all the glue seams and you unfold it. So it's a two-dimensional pattern again. Then you can draw something on it. Let's say paint or glue this texture on it, and then we fold it all back into a three-dimensional box. So that's UV unwrapping in a nutshell. How does this work? There. And there. So this is basically the standard version. And what it did was it took this geometry, which has multiple points. Don't do this. I want to show you what happened. There you see now there is this rectangular piece. So when I go maybe and select this face, let's see how does this one look. Yeah, it's a little bit cricket. That's the reason why if we would give this material to it, it would look terrible. No? So if I would go unwrap, it would make it clean again. Assign. Good. Very good. So, yeah, that looks not too bad, but definitely way too big. How do we scale this texture down? This is maybe the more I don't want to say complicated, but maybe for those who are not familiar with it, the more unusual way how to do this. And I'm going to introduce you to nodes. Nodes is basically, think about it like a flow chart of commands. It's just a different way of seeing the functions or the tasks. So I slice that interface, then I go to shader editor, and then with this materials or object still selected, this is what I see. Look at this. You see it's exactly the same. If I click grass, oh look, there's this material there. So what you see here is a list, and now here we see as a flow chart. The next two steps you might not really, you can't really know where to go to, so I'm going to tell you that. But what we are looking for is we want to tell the software to scale this texture down and then tile it. So we need to have a transform command. Again, this is also standard among all programs. Wherever they have nodes, etc., like this is what they do. So we go add input vector mapping. There we are, and we can drag this one to there. So this blue to blue, and then here we can set this maybe to 4. But then, well, where's our image? Well, we have to do one more. And texture coordinates. And let me zoom in. And then with the mouse wheel, you can scroll. This UV goes in there. So then the UV unwrapping, now what we did, into the mapping, please scale this by 2 times. Oh, make this actually the opposite. 0.1, really large. 10, way too small. There you can actually there already see the issue with textures and tiling. Now it's seamless, but you can still see the pattern. 4. So in a nutshell, this technique, no matter what program, just is limited to images. And we can't take one image and replicate it, tile it over a space and make it look irregular. So that's the reason why this doesn't work. In bird's eye view, this is not good. But if we maybe go to a camera view, we might be able to actually not see it. So there's a little bit of trickery we have to do. This is not reflective. There we are. Let's take a look into this. Yeah, cool. I have somewhere a folder with more cameras. Let's show me my cameras. There we are. Here's the camera, control 0. Yeah, there you see it's, there we can see the tiling a little bit, and up here it's not too bad. Actually, in the rendering, it's, yeah, we can get away with it. In today's time also, instead of really using a texture, as a professional for work, then I would really grow realistic grass, because then I could make each grass piece, leaf be different. But this is not part of this exercise. Okay, very good. So now we have this kind of done. How can we maybe do something with the walkway? So let's say you, I would like to look like maybe concrete for the outside. Is there a way to do this? And maybe we do the same even here. So we have this ground, no? Let's go back to here and seamless concrete. We have, for example, this image here. I will right click and say save image. Wherever this one saved it to. So save image to. Okay, I won't drag it. Let's do it this way. Concrete 1, and let's see. I mean, maybe one that's a little bit more washed. Maybe this one. concrete 2. Okay, very good. So back to Blender. So now here we do the same. I will start actually that process, texture, coordinates, then... No, actually, no, we do not need this. But here we can go image, flip, open, and textures, preview. Let's select this one first. So because we're going to see something quite funny. I will select this or AA. No, wait, never mind. Just forget what I said. I can click on ground and then say here, select. You see it selects in all the geometry here minus the other stuff. And now let's take a look how this looks very interesting, the paint job. So we have to unwrap this. Unwrap. Okay. Yeah. It's really large. So this is the main thing is this whole geometry. We took and mapped this over that image. And there you can see here's actually my space. How this I can even rotate this. This is kind of like the UV unwrapping. I can go to maybe a top view. When I select these faces, you can see what there's actually selected. If I do a U unwrap from view, then it's actually more linear. These views then are actually broken, but what I can do is I go then from this view and say unwrap from view. Now you see there rectangular again. Okay, and then if I select all, what I would need to do is L and L and L and L. You see how I shift selected them? I can press R and this is probably minus 90. Okay, and then S and I scale this one down. So this is actually the outside. So oops, not A, S, G. So you see how I make these kind of like fit in here because this is from here to there. Yeah. Okay. Now the scale here is the same. And now I can with S scale this one up. Can make this even bigger. Even bigger. So you see now this tiny image is being copied over this whole geometry, and we get this beautiful tiling effects again. So we will scale this one down with S just so it fits in there. Or what happens if we do maybe a basic simple repeat? Yeah, we can see this a little bit, but now when we add all the other geometry to it, we might not really be able to see that. Control 0, Alt H, show me the rest of the building. Hide the windows for the moment. Yeah, there you can see that. So the texture is pretty, it has the structure in it, and you can kind of like guess how big this piece is. So it might, now our interpretation is this like some marble floor, or yeah, you see the scale is off. I did this on purpose so you can see the problem with it. We can change the reflectivity here again, or make it super reflective to be polished. And then we can hide a little bit on the ground. Now this actually looks really like polished concrete. For those who are a little bit fluid in Photoshop, maybe we would like to adjust the strength of this image. We could go into Photoshop and adjust the color, or we can also just do this here. I plug in this command, saturation, just quarter of it, 0.1. You see how this is actually getting lighter. Oh, actually, that's saturation. That's not what I meant. Or meant value 0.1. No. Oh, it's a grayscale. Yeah, yeah. So, well, you can't take a color out of a grayscale. So, I am actually making this a little bit brighter. So I'm just washing things out there. So you see now how we only have few of these dots left and the rest is kind of like pure white. X, Shift A, color RGB. Mix RGB is also interesting, just to show you the fun you can have here. So we have a white and a red color. Shift H. So there you see now everything that's black becomes red, everything that's white is white. Can maybe switch this. And then this way we can, for example, let's say should be both whitish, but maybe different gray tones. There you see now, there's something happening on the ground. It's not as noticeable anymore, for example. Or Shift A, we can work with the RGB curve. I drag this one to there, replace this to there, and then I can make the darks darker, I can make the brights brighter, I can make the darks brighter. X, whoops, no, not X, nope. Well, how do we delete this point now again? Delete V. Okay. One more time. So this one I simply move up. So let me reconnect this. And by this you can see how the darks are really washed out. And if I bring this over, I make the darks and the mid grays really black. So this is kind of like how you then can adjust the colors for it. Yeah. This is also actually quite nice because in this way we can colorize this a little bit. So if we would like to change this color, what did I do here? I must have done something here. Okay, let's X, Shift A, image. I saw this in the recording that I did something there. Okay, good. We are back to business. If I now go ahead and select maybe this other concrete. So this is the more cloudy one. This is like another stretched piece. Okay. No? So what about maybe we would like to give this an interesting color or material that's kind of like for concrete walls. So let's say here, or plaster, for example. But let's do this one here first. So concrete wall, seamless wall, concrete texture. Let's see. Is this a seamless one? This could be seamless. This is too small, like 200 pixels. No, I need bigger pixels. This is maybe not too bad, but it has this watermark in it. Okay, well, we might not see this. We're not going to use this anyway, but just to show you how we can play with the tiling too. So there's this, open it, go to the top view. Yeah, Looks actually quite funny how this here now is rendering everything with this cast concrete pattern on it. It is a little bit stretched. Now, if we go to the image, you can see that this should be squarish. To fix this, if you would like to, you can go to the UV editor, go into edit mode. So this is actually, if I press S and X, this is the x-axis. So now you can start seeing that this starts to look like squares. So the format is actually better now. And then if we would like, because this is nicely tileable, now this is really meant to be obviously perfectly tileable. There we are, we have it. How do we adjust really the tiling to be perfect? Now, so maybe this corner is where the pattern should start. So I moved this image with G right onto this corner. And there you can see now how from there it starts. Okay, very good. Yeah, now we have some problems here. The texture flows over the step. Again, this is not meant to be a Cat 2 video, more like to give you some interesting elements to play with. One really great website to create textures is also this one, architectures.org. So when we click on create, or when we maybe look at types we have here, there we have all these different flooring types they have. This one kind of like looks kind of fun. You can click on it. There we are. Oh, this is beautiful. Can do a scale. Let's download this one. Okay, let's edit this one too. So how does this actually work? So we have no pattern. We can actually give this a pattern. So there we have the amount of rows and columns. It reads you out how big this area is. There's actually the width for example, one of these stones. Stones are maybe hard to see right now. Let's change this material to limestone. Bang, look at that. Let's change maybe this layout there. It's actually really beautiful. We have some color adjustments, motor options, and then we can just go and do the download hue. As a free version, only have access to the sample 1000. This is fine. Okay, so this texture I would like to bring over to here. There we are. Thank you. And then here I will swap this one out with this material, Z, and render. Let's see how this looks. Shift H, so I only can see this. Yeah, that's actually pretty nice. That works quite well. I can, if I would like to adjust the scaling one more time, Shift A, just mapping and the texture coordinates. You see at the beginning, yeah, it feels like intimidating, so many things to learn, but then you notice you do this 2-3 times and it becomes less intimidating. It's very repetitive. We can see a repetitive line there. I'm just curious what happens when we rotate this a little bit. Oh, we can break this up a little bit. I just rotated the way how the texture looks. Shift H, there we are. Yeah, now we have actually kind of like created this type of a material for the ground. We can again define this to be flat, highly polished. Oops, I meant 0 for roughness, 1 for specular. So it's really high gloss. Maybe 0.5 is actually fine, and 0.2 for the roughness, or 0.1. And you can see how these bases can look actually really quite nice. There's obviously so much more really to talk about, but we can't learn all the stuff with one video. But look at that. That's actually not too bad. Okay, so that's pretty much all maybe for the materials for right now. So to bring this video now to an end, now we covered the materials for the glass, for the architecture, a little bit of the material for the outside, the grass, cameras, and the environment. Let's take a look at that. So I have in my design here quite many cameras floating around. Now they capture various points, going nicely along the walls. Most of the time, as you can see, if I go to the top view, there are all the different cameras. I even have this camera looking, for example, up. Little trick. So you see, when I select a camera, Shift D, move it to here, and I press R and Z, there, R and Z. You see how the Y-axis remains this way? If I switch this to local, there. Now this is very easy to actually rotate cameras better. So the way how I very often do this is I'm in a top view, Shift D, and then I rotate it, switch now to this local view, and then I can adjust this rotation so the camera can look up. Or we simply do the control right here with everything too. That works also really good. So all these cameras are positioned. Alt H, or here, show me the building. Okay, so they capture various viewpoints via selecting a camera and then set active camera, or set active object as camera. You switch to the individual cameras, or on your keyboard, Control 0 does that. Super good. The height is adjusted for each floor, so that they're not just, how could I say that, super floating somewhere in space, but they're more like at eye level. This is on purpose a little bit higher, this camera. And like with this camera, Control 0, this is actually outside. And via the clipping start, now we can start looking through that space. It's kind of like a section view. Okay, and then we would do a rendering. It would really kind of like, yeah, look through the space. Pretty nice. Control 0. If we look up that space, oh, this is actually a really beautiful view, and how everything now works with the colors and the light coming in on the outside. Yeah. To set up the environment, again, this is just preferences, add-ons, and then the light. I typed in sun, so this sun position add-on. The world has a background and a sky texture. That's pretty much all we need to do. So click on this yellow dot, sky texture. And then sun position, here are the GPS coordinates for that space. It's in Spain. Show north if you want to, time of the day, and then, hold on 1 second, with this, then basically we can do these beautiful sun studies. So sunrise is at 6, so there is like sunrise. Hello there, Spain. And then sunset. And then when we are inside the space, everything will look accordingly based on from where the sun is coming. That looks actually pretty cool how the lights are beaming over the ground. Or where's this one view here where we look up? The sunlight actually should come through the windows and then start painting maybe the walls. Oh, here there's actually also quite cool how you have these beams flowing over the ground. Okay, very good. Now, so with all these different cameras, then you can capture various interesting points. Now, just make a camera, Shift D, move it around, position it where it would be interesting. And this is particularly then also important when we have all the furniture elements, for example, inside this space. Since we talked about the furniture in the previous video, I will show like one more time kind of like what I have here now. I further expanded a little bit. So now, for example, this, I made a copy and turned this into this. Also here, a basic cube turned into a table with just making these pieces smaller. I adjusted the scaling, and then this is even using a mirror modifier across this tabletop plate. There's actually a sphere where I started cutting elements. This is actually a sphere that's cut by a squeezed sphere. Here, for example, an extrusion in the inside up using the inset face. So when I had something like this, I for inset and E for extrude up. Not too complicated. Or what we learned about the revolve command here, turn this into a revolve. So there's a center point, but it's just going around. What we learned with modeling the shape here, can do the same to this. But there you see what we have to just create a piece that's kind of like a shell and revolved. Or this revolve command, just make a round table and then put some circular stools around. Or for example, here we have this table, and then there I have just a cube, which the cube is mirroring across this table, and then I use the cube to cut from the table. So the combinations are actually really endless, and the beautiful thing is, as you can see it, you can create a lot of very interesting shapes, kind of like a playground, and then you start pick and choose and move these things around and start creating zones in there. And then when we do actually the renderings, so maybe let's go to one of the previous cameras, let's say this one, and Z. It actually starts to look pretty nice. Should also have our walls, Alt H, support walls. There they are. Very good. Yeah. Maybe this view on the back, Control 0. See, then with some basic materials added to it, things become so much more alive. Very good. Before I talk too much more, I would say this is everything about quickly adding some materials to the lights or the windows, adding materials to the architecture, and then also positioning cameras around so we can create really nice interior kind of like views.